ॐ अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। हरिः ओम्। ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरामकृष्णाय। Welcome to the readings and reflections on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. A new chapter is beginning, chapter 10, page 215. The chapter 10 is entitled The Master with the Brahmo Devotees, Part 2. April 22nd, 1883. Sri Ramakrishna paid a visit to Beni Madhav Pal's garden house at Sinti, near Calcutta, on the occasion of the semi-annual festival of the Brahmo Samaj. Many devotees of the Samaj were present and sat around the master. Now and then, some of them asked him questions. A Brahmo devotee: "Sir, what is the way?" Master: "Attachment to God, or in other words, love for Him. And secondly, prayer." Brahmo devotee: "Which one is the way, love or prayer?" Master: "First love and then prayer." The master sang: "Cry to your mother Shyama with a real cry, O mind. And how can she hold herself from you? How can Shyama stay away?" Continuing, the master said, "And one must always chant the name and glories of God and pray to Him. An old metal pot must be scrubbed every day. What is the use of cleaning it only once? Further, one must practice discrimination and renunciation. One must be conscious of the unreality of the world." Brahma: "Is it good to renounce the world?" Master: "Not for all. Those who have not yet come to the end of their enjoyments should not renounce the world. Can one get drunk on 2 annas worth of wine?" Brahma: "Then should they lead a worldly life?" Master: "Yes, they should try to perform their duties in a detached way. Before you break the jackfruit open, rub your hands with oil so that the sticky milk will not smear them. The maidservant in a rich man's house performs all her duties, but her mind dwells in her home in the country. This is an example of doing duty in a detached way. You should renounce the world only in mind, but a sannyasi should renounce the world both inwardly and outwardly." Brahma: "What is the meaning of the end of enjoyments?" Master: "I mean the enjoyment of woman and gold. It is risky to put a typhoid patient in a room where pitchers of water and jugs of pickled tamarind are kept. Most people don't feel any longing for God unless they have once passed through the experience of wealth, name, fame, creature comforts, and the like. That is to say, unless they have seen through these enjoyments." Brahma: "Who is really bad, man or woman?" Master: "As there are women endowed with Vidya Shakti, so also there are women with Avidya Shakti. A woman endowed with spiritual attributes leads the man to God, but a woman who is the embodiment of delusion makes him forget God and drowns him in the ocean of worldliness. This universe is created by the Mahamaya of God, the inscrutable power of illusion. It's called Mahamaya. Mahamaya contains both Vidyamaya, the illusion of knowledge, and Avidyamaya, the illusion of ignorance. Through the help of Vidyamaya, one cultivates such virtues as a taste for holy company. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramakrishna. Apologies for the interruption. Yes, now we are recording it and then it will be attached later. So what we are telling is that in the ancient time also, the disciples asking questions to their Guru and then Guru explaining. So if you find Upanishadic time itself it was there. And also later in the Mahabharata, that is when the epics were written, in Mahabharata itself there is a great situation where Yudhishthir was asked 33 questions by the Yaksha. You all know the story, how the story goes on, that they were very thirsty, the water was not available. So Sahadeva first comes and then he is trying to take the water, but then the swan that was there, or the crane that was there, it asked him, you must answer the questions, then only you can take the water. He disregarded that and he drank the water and he fell dead. So like that all the brothers were dead. And when Yudhishthir came, the same crane asked him, can you answer all my questions? He said, yes, ask. Then the questions are fielded. In the same way, you find in Shankaracharya's time, Adi Shankara wrote a beautiful book. It's called Prashnottari. Prashna and Uttara, that is question and answer. Both are there in that book. So one by one it says total about 67 verses. But then in each verse, 3 or 4 questions are there. And the answers are there. So very beautiful way. So in the same way, in the gospel we find that devotees are putting questions to Master. And then Master is answering the questions one by one. So it's very wonderful to see what was the first question that was put to Sri Ramakrishna at Beni Madhav Pal's house. The first question was, Sir, what is the way? And Sri Ramakrishna beautifully says that attachment to God, or in other words, love for Him, that is the way. Followed by prayer. Then the devotee asks, which one is the way, love or prayer? Because you told 2. So out of the 2, which one I should choose? Then Sri Ramakrishna says, first love, then prayer. Now this prayer is a very beautiful term that we all use in our lives many times. But hardly we understand what actually the prayer is. For instance, in those Christians who are very sincere to their religion, they know there are many kinds of prayers are there. For instance, the prayer of faith, prayer of agreement, then prayer of request is called supplication, prayer of thanksgiving, prayer of worship, prayer of consecration, prayer of intercession, and prayer of imprecation. So there are so many kinds of prayers are there. The prayer system has been very well classified by the Christians. But unfortunately, Hindus never did that. But then we have used a term which goes far beyond these meanings of these prayers. What is the term that we have used in Sanskrit? It is called prarthana. The root word is artha. Artha means there is one connotation is meaning. What is the artha of this sentence? Vakyartha. When you say Vakyartha, this is the meaning of the sentence. But another, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, there also Artha is there. What is this Artha? Artha means wealth, Nidhi, or an object. An object that you can, with the 5 senses you can hold it. But then this Artha also includes other things that you cannot see, you cannot hold, like that. Like for instance, learning. Learning is also a wealth, as well as money is a wealth. So likewise, this Artha word has got many connotations. Now, the word prarthana is not merely asking something from God. So prarthana goes beyond these different kinds of prayer. Like I told you, supplication. That's the main prayer that we all do. When you go to a temple, when you stand before the deity, we just ask, please give me this, give me that, make it okay, and remove these obstacles. These type of things we are asking. So asking is a prayer. That's what we think. No. There is a kind of prayer which is called prarthana, where that is why the pra is used before artha. What is the meaning of pra? Pra means prakrishta. Prakrishta means a special kind, Vishesh bhava. So the special kind of artha. That is what I am going to ask God. So what I am going to ask God? I am going to ask God nothing. Leaving everything to God, you decide, oh Lord, what is good for me. And then I will accept whatever comes from you. That is the topmost situation in the Bhakti Yoga. In Bhakti Yoga, you don't demand anything. There is a demand available, yes, at a lower stage. But when you improve in spirituality, slowly when you rise, then you stop asking anything from God. So here Sri Ramakrishna uses the word prarthana. The prarthana does not mean merely asking. Yes, asking is included. But then the word prarthana itself signifies something much more than what you ask. So absolute surrender comes when that level of prarthana happens in your life. In absolute surrender, you do not question at all the God's decision. Whatever God is giving me, accept it. So that is called prarthana. So Sri Ramakrishna says, yes, prarthana. But before prarthana, how does this surrender comes? Unless you love somebody. So love of God is predominant. So Sri Ramakrishna says, what is the way? The answer is love of God. Are you able to love God? Or you are only able to think about Him intellectually? Or able to heartily take to Him? That is what the question. So Sri Ramakrishna sang, cry to your mother Shyama with a real cry. So there are cries which are not, fake cries are there, and real cries are there. So when the real cry is done, Shyama cannot withhold herself. She will have to come to you. So that is how beautifully he says. And then he says one must chant the names of God and then glories of God. This is also a kind of prarthana. So in prarthana, as I told many, the prayer of faith. In Christian theology, it is called prayer of faith, where you only tell God, who are you? You don't ask this and that. Recently, some of our devotees have celebrated Varalakshmi Vratam. It's a very beautiful a ritual done in most of the South Indian families, and they worship Mahalakshmi as a Varalakshmi. Mahalakshmi has got 8 aspects. She's called Ashtalakshmi. So recently I saw one picture where 8 Lakshmis are together in one picture. I was glad to see that. All the 8 Lakshmis are represented in that picture. So 8 Lakshmis are there. One of them is Varalakshmi. So Varalakshmi means what? The Lakshmi, she gives boons. So the boon giving Lakshmi, like there several Lakshmis are there, other 7 Lakshmis are there. I am not going to the details of the Ashtalakshmi, the 8 Lakshmis. But I am coming to Varalakshmi. This Varalakshmi is a boon giver. On that night, the Varalakshmi night, Varalakshmi becomes so manifest herself, and she is ready to give whatever you ask. So if you are a devotee, a beginner, so you will ask for something, and Varalakshmi grants that. But if you are at a higher stage of evolution in your spiritual life, in the bhakti way, then you will not ask anything. You will surrender to her completely, telling her, Ma, you do everything. Because there is a Mahalakshmi Ashtakam a very beautiful hymn written by Shankaracharya, said to be written by Shankaracharya, and it's very beautiful. Only 10 verses. Of course, 8 verses are Ashtakam, so 8 verses are there about Mahalakshmi, and 2 verses are the praise of Mahalakshmi. So you can see in that Mahalakshmi Ashtakam, the devotee does not ask anything. He says, Bhukti Mukti Pradayini, O Mahalakshmi, who are you? Thou art the giver of bhukti, that is all my enjoyments, and mukti, the liberation from the enjoyments. So both you give. So all the adjectives are used for Mahalakshmi. Nowhere you give this, you give that to me. No asking. This is called singing the glory of God. And Sri Ramakrishna was very fond of this. He used to tell his devotees again and again, sing the glory of God. Don't go on asking this and that. That is not necessary. Simply praise the Lord. And then, that's why the Lord be praised, we say. When any good things happen, we say, the Lord be praised. Let the credit goes to the Lord, not to me. With this idea, that prayer has to be done. So in the Mahalakshmi Ashtakam, you will find it's a very beautiful hymn. And some people do this for 8 weeks, continuously, every day, 8 times, to get whatever they need, whatever they want. And that is a very beautiful thing. The last line it says, Sarva Siddhim Avapnoti Mahalakshmi Prasadataha. By the grace of Mahalakshmi, Sarva Siddhim, all success are obtained by the grace of Mahalakshmi. It's a very beautiful hymn. And if you have not yet started chanting that, please start that. So Sri Ramakrishna says, one must always chant the name and glories of God. Such types of hymns are giving us that great, what Sri Ramakrishna has advised us. And why he says, a old metal pot, he says, has to be scrubbed every day. Then it becomes shining. So like that, our minds are like that. It has to be cleaned every day. So practice discrimination and renunciation. Viveka and Vairagya. These two practice, he says. Then the second question. Is it good to renounce the world? Another Brahma devotee is asking. So for that, Sri Ramakrishna's categorical answer is not at all. So if you tell everybody, only by renouncing the world, you are going to reach God, then it is not meant for everybody. So Sri Ramakrishna was very practical. So he says, no. Those who have not yet come to the end of the worldly enjoyments, they should not renounce the world. There are indications when you have reached the end of the enjoyments. So there is a line. So there are people who just reach the end of their enjoyments and they are fit to become monks. So they can renounce, but not everyone. Why? Because then what should they do? Third question. Then Sri Ramakrishna says, yes, they can be householders. They can remain in the world and they can perform their duties in a detached way. 2 examples he gives here. In other places, in a very detailed way he gives. But here very shortly he gives. How? There are 2 examples. First, rub with milk. Your hands should be rubbed with milk before you cut the jackfruit. Jackfruit, when you cut it open, it gives a type of a liquid, and that liquid is very sticky. So you get all your hands, messy. So if it is all messy, then you will not be able to enjoy, you see. So first you apply oil, he says. So there is an oil, so you apply oil on your hands and palms and then cut the jackfruit. Then your hands will not become messy. Likewise, you must think of God. Then secondly, he says, another example, like a maid servant in the city. In the country, her children are there, her family is there, her house is there, her mind is on there only. But here, she has come for work, so she is working here. How her mind is occupied, the thoughts of the children in the country, at her home. Likewise, keep your mind on God. while doing all types of duties. That's a very beautiful way Sri Ramakrishna says. Then next question. So when you say a person should be remaining in the worldly level and then he can renounce only when he reaches the end of enjoyments. What is the meaning of end of enjoyments? What do you mean by that? So for that, Sri Ramakrishna says, I mean the end of enjoyment means the thirst for enjoyment of woman and gold. That means lust and greedy. There is a thirst in every one of us. These two are there very much in every one of us. But is there any end to that? Have you come to the last fringe of that so that you say that from tomorrow I don't need this? If you feel a great sense of vairagya, renunciation, and you want to completely disconnect yourself from this lust and greediness, then you are eligible for sannyas. So he says, yes, the longing for God must become. What is the sign of that? This great longing comes. It is called, in Christian tradition, we call it that as a call from the Lord. So the Lord calls you. You become one of the chosen people. Then when the call comes, that means what? The longing has come to the fullness. So you feel the call. And then otherwise, everyone has to pass through, what are the things? Experience of wealth, name, fame, creature comforts, and the like. That is to say, unless they have seen through these things, of these enjoyments, the renunciation will not come. Then, naturally connected to this, another question comes. Somebody is asking, who is really bad, man or woman? Now, both are not bad. And you cannot say both are good, because the bad and good is actually, these two qualities are present in both. So he gives an example of a woman. In woman, there are two kinds of Shaktis are there. Two kinds of Maya is there. One is Vidya Maya, another is Avidya Maya. So if a man has got an attachment to a woman, and the woman slowly takes him to the level of God experience, that woman has got an aspect of Vidya Maya. But if any woman drags you down to the sensual level, that woman at that time has got Avidya Maya. So Sri Ramakrishna says that this universe is created by the Mahamaya. At her will the universe has sprung up. So she has got both these aspects, Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya. So one has to be, you see, one Avidya Maya lady was there. One fellow was too much attached to this prostitute, and he used to go to her very often, and then he used to spend all his money on her. And one day he had so much desire to reach her place, and on that day he was on the other part of the river, and he was trying for some boatman to take him to the other side. But none of the boatmen was ready to ply the boat. Why? The river was on spade, and then the terrible rains were pouring at that time. There was a storm. So the boatman said, no, we shall not take the boats. This is dangerous. But then this man, so much he has got love for the prostitute. So what he said, let me swim and go to the other place. But then the water is fast moving. Then he saw he's being dragged by the stream. Then he held what was appearing as a log of wood. He held that, and then he swam across. And when he went to the other place, he left that log of wood and went before her house. Her house was fully sealed, as it were. All the doors were closed because it was midnight. She doesn't know that he is coming on that day. She has closed. And this man, standing there, he wanted to jump the wall of that the boundary wall was there. But how could he jump? The wall was so tall. So he looked at the nearby tree. There was one rope was hanging on the tree. So he caught the rope and then jumped over the wall and reached the first floor of the house and then banged the door. She opened. She was an avidya maya. She was attracting him to physicality. But then on that day, she became Vidya Maya. What happened on the day? When he went and then embraced her, she said, "How did you come?" He said, "I had a log of wood to swim across this river. Then there was a rope hanging from the tree. I caught the rope and jumped over this wall." The rain was over. The daytime has come. So she came out, took him. "Let me see what was that rope." And she was stunned to see it was not a rope. It was a snake hanging from the tree. So actually he held the snake and then he jumped over the wall. Then she said, "Show me the log of wood." And when he went to the place and that log of wood was not there, it was a dead body. Looking at him, she was completely, the Vidya Maya is expressing in her. She said, "Look, my dear, for this body which is going to die tomorrow or day after tomorrow, you are so much attached. And you came holding a dead body and you did not even know it was a snake. And you jumped over this wall. All the trouble you took. If you have only taken 1/100th of these efforts to realize God, today you would have seen God." That teaching completely changed him. He said, immediately fell at her feet and he called her, addressed her, Mate. He said, "Mother, oh mother, you are my Guru. You have opened my eyes. Chakshurun miritam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha." Tasmai, see, Chakshurun miritam. The eyes are closed for us. And a Guru is, what is the function of a Guru? He opens the eyes. So this lady opened his eyes. He said, "You are my Guru." And he left on that day and became a saint. You see, such stories, they are all real stories, happened in this country and we found that. So such type of wonderful stories are there. So Vidya Maya exerts to make a man go to the godly level. And then another person says, so if the Maya has got Vidya and Avidya, and if the Avidya, Maya is the cause of ignorance, then why has God created this? What is the necessary for God to create Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya? Why these two are necessary in this world? Sri Ramakrishna was out and out, you can say, a devotee. So when he is before the devotees, his whole personality changes into a devotee himself. So from that point of view, he answers here. He says, yes. Why the both are there? He says, otherwise, how you will understand the play of the Creator? The Creator of this universe is playing. It is a charm for him to play. And he says, the glory of light cannot be seen without the darkness. When the hall is completely dark and you put on the light, then you understand the worth of the light. And you see, and also he gives, so the glory of light cannot be appreciated without darkness. So without the presence of bad people, the good people cannot be appreciated. So these two he gives here. The next question comes. Is it better to worship God with form or without form? So particularly the deity is made of clay. Clay is a product of the mud. And then you make some figure, an image is made. And then people worship it as God. Is it proper to worship God made of image? Then Sri Ramakrishna says, because that was a Brahma devotee who doesn't believe God in form. So he says, well, you don't accept God with form. I agree to that. Okay, that is all right. But there are people for whom God with form is meant. For them, you cannot stop. They need something, some solid object to worship. Then he is asking the Brahma devotee, why do you think that is something like inferior? As if your worshipping, your method of worshipping of God without form is much superior. And you think the people who worship God in form is inferior. No, you should not consider like that. Rather, take what is good in that system of worship. What is the goodness in that system of worship? There is a great love, there is a great attraction to the form of God. That is called personal God. Opposite to that is called impersonal God. So a personal God has got a form. He has got a name. He has got certain qualities. So it's called Sakara, Saguna. This Saguna Sakara God, Ishvara, can be worshipped because you can make a relationship with Him. If there is no form, if there is no name, if there is no qualities, well, you can't establish a relationship with Him. I am in that level. For me, a relationship is required to progress in my spiritual life. In that case, should I not have a personal God for me? So a personal God is very important. He says, cry from the depths of your heart. And that love for Radha had for Krishna, for a devotee having for the Lord, that aspect of that you must take. So he is advising the Brahma devotee. Then the Brahma devotee asks, how does one cultivate the spirit of dispassion? Why don't all have it? That is also a question. So says dispassion, that vairagya is not possible unless one gets some type of satisfaction in the enjoyment. The enjoyment has not been completed. You still want to have certain enjoyments. There is no satiety, there is no satisfaction. So if the satisfaction is not there, how are you going to leave these things? So he says, you can easily cajole small child with toys and sweetmeats. But then he will be playing with the toys, okay. But when he thinks of his mother, he will leave all the play. He will stop eating the sweets. He will want to rush to the mother. So in that way, these toys and sweetmeats are like for our enjoyments. Once our mind rises to that level where we don't want any more, then we will turn our mind to God. Why everybody is not turning to God? Why people are still worldly? It is because they are still undergoing, playing with the toys, enjoying the sweetmeats, so their mind is not turning towards God. Very beautiful answer Sri Ramakrishna gives. Then the Brahma, generally the Brahma devotees, they are not believers in a formal guruship. A formal guru, a person going to guru, getting instructions from him, getting mantra diksha, etc. They don't believe. So this is all belonging to Orthodox Hinduism. That is what they call it. These are all Orthodox Hinduism. We don't believe. We are modern Hinduism. We don't believe in guruship. So this person asked, so without guru, is spiritual illumination, knowledge, is possible? He is asking. Sri Ramakrishna says, Satchidananda is the guru. That means the Lord whom you are thinking as impersonal, that Lord is the guru. Then what about the guru who come before us, in front of us like human beings? Who are they? Then Sri Ramakrishna says, who is the guru? Who can enkindle within you the sense of there is higher spiritual order of this world. That means he awakens a spiritual consciousness within you. That person is a guru. So you can find guru available in this country, anywhere. You go there, gurus are there who can enkindle your spiritual awareness. They can make you spiritually vibrant. You may also feel, if I go to such and such person, if I listen to such and such person, then I am getting awakened. If you feel so, that person is your guru. But then that person is in a human form. But Sri Ramakrishna says, Satchidananda alone is Guru. In Bengali, Satchidananda E Guru. That E sound represents the alone. Satchidananda alone is Guru. The Supreme Lord alone is the Guru. But He comes in many forms, in human forms, to awaken in you the spiritual consciousness. So, one should not distinguish between the Gurus. All Gurus are okay. According to the temperament of the disciple gets a Guru. From that level, I am suppose in KG school, then I must get a teacher who can teach me at the KG level. I don't want a professor who can teach at the PhD level. So if I am a school student, then I must have a teacher who can teach me at the school level. So at whatever my temperament is there, accordingly I get my Guru. But then Guru should not be decreased for that. Because a teacher is teaching in a KG school, because a teacher is teaching a postgraduate student, you cannot make a distinction. In teaching line, both are to be appreciated, both are to be adored, both are to be respected. So Guru may be in many forms. Yes, we agree to that. But then Sri Ramakrishna says, no distinction should be made between them. So each one gets according to his temperament, according to his level of existence. And he says, so in that house, in that way says, the relationship between them remains as Guru and disciple so long the disciple do not see God. So when the disciple realizes God himself, then of course you do not have any Guru, you are on your own. So after this, the dusk comes, the Brahma devotees just telling, oh, you may require some evening rituals, etc. Then Sri Ramakrishna says, no, not exactly like that. I don't require that. Some people require in the beginning stage, it requires all these things. But for me, it is not required. So the Brahma Samaj, the meeting where he had come, the meeting is going to start. So all the people are assembled for that in the hall, and then the preacher of the Brahma Samaj is going to conduct the service from the pulpit, and the service he is doing was interspersed with the recitations from the Upanishads, because they believe in impersonal God, and Upanishads sing the glory of impersonal God. So they take passages from the Upanishads and they recite from the Upanishads. There are many Upanishads are there, There are very prominent Upanishads, are 11 Upanishads. So they are prominent. And from them, they take some passages and then recite. And after the service, the master and the preacher start conversing, which you will see next week. Om Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa Dhrita Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namama. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.